You know, Jerash was founded on the 4th century BC, and Jerash was founded by Alexander. We have 2 Alexander in our bus.
3.
3? Who's the third? 1, 2, and 3. But that's Alexander the First beside me, he's telling me. I'm the first. Okay.
Let them fight. Let them fight.
That's the way how they run.
Let them fight.
You know, we're talking about politics, not something nice to share it, but actually, one word is, politics is a dirty job. Am I right, Father?
Yeah.
Now, about Jerash, that was founded by Alexander the Great. And after Alexander, when the great kingdom of Alexander was divided between the generals of Alexander. As an example, a man was with the Ptolemaios, you know, the Ptolemaios of Egypt. They are the ones who did name Philadelphia, by Ptolemy II Philadelphos. And he named the city Philadelphia because the name of his wife is Philadelphia. Jerash, it was built by the Seleucid, you know, the Seleucid of Syria. Both they were the generals of Alexander, as you know well. And Antiochus of Syria, you know, Antiochus II, on the 4th century BC, he started to build the Greek city. Where Antiochus IV now, on the 2nd century BC, he named Jerash, he changed the city of Jerash from Gerasa to Antioch on the Chryserwas. Now Antioch, his name is Antiochus. Chryserwas, 2 Greek words, means the Golden River. So you name the city Antioch on the Chryserwas, Antioch on the Golden River, which is actually a big name for a stream of fresh water that used to divide the city of Jerash from the north to the south. On 63 BC, Pompey, he came against the Greeks. You know, when Pompey, he gave his order to destroy the Greek city. Where he started to build the Roman city Pompey, and Jerash joined the Decapolis. We did talk about the Decapolis yesterday. What does it mean? The 10 cities united, having the independence on the trade route, all of them. 6 or 7 are in Jordan. Their loyalty to the Roman emperor in Rome, and our Lord Jesus Christ, he did pass the 10 cities, the Decapolis. Now Romans, they ruled in Jerash from 63 BC until the 4th century AD. The golden age for the city of Jerash was when Hadrian, the emperor, he visited Jerash. Hadrian, he was like you, he used to travel a lot. If anyone had been to England, there is Hadrian Wall. He was in Jerash on 129 AD. He was in Petra. He did spend the winter season in Petra, according to historians. And he's the emperor who gave his order to rebuild Jerusalem again, and Jerusalem was named by Hadrian Aelia Capitolina. And when the Roman emperor Hadrian, he visited Jerash, the local people of Jerash, they have erected the Triumphal Arch, or Hadrian Arch, to celebrate the arriving of the Emperor Hadrian. The local people of Jerash, they changed the name of their city when Hadrian he visited to what? The city of the 1,000 columns. The city of the 1,000 columns, because there was 1,000 columns standing in Jerash. What is left, about 416 columns, where you'll find out this morning most of them are the original ones. Then, like any other place in our region, from the 4th till the 7th century AD became the Byzantine period, the Christianity period, with this beautiful scenery on the left of the Gilead Mountains, which is covered with forests of pine and oak trees. I've seen the Gilead from Mount Nebo, but it's not so green with these trees like there. And in the Bible, when it talks about the son of King David, Absalom, he was hanged by his hair on one of the oak trees on the Gilead. Maybe around the area here, up on the mountains there. where the oak are. Forests of oak and pine. Now, during the Byzantine period, 13 churches have been found in Jerash. 13. And we are sure that there is more than 13. As usually, Byzantium, they used to build about 15 churches in the city. About. Yesterday I've seen there is 12 in Umar Asas. 12. And I don't want to repeat what I did mention in Petra when I did talk about the history of Petra. I did say that on 614 AD, just to refresh your memory, Persians were fighting for 14 years of fighting. Then after 14 years of fighting, even that Persians were defeated by Byzantium. But it did end that both Persians and Byzantium, they became very weak, where I do believe this is one of the main reasons that makes the Muslims, who came on the same century, Muslims defeated the Byzantium on 636 AD, then Muslims defeat the Persians 2 years after. And important of Jordan was a crossroad on the King's Highway from China to Europe, I mean on the trade route. And the Muslims who choose Damascus, you remember, I'm just refreshing your memory, the Umayyad who choose Damascus to be their capital, yeah, while choosing Damascus, Jordan remained important until the earthquake of 749 AD, and this earthquake 749, it did help the other Islamic dynasty who took over, who were Shiite, and they switched the capital from Damascus to Baghdad, you know, Baghdad, which is far away. While switching the capital to Baghdad, now traders and the caravans, they start passing the new Islamic capital, Baghdad. Now while passing Baghdad, why should they pass Petra or Jerash in the north, or cities in between Petra and Jerash? The main income for people here was dealing with the traders. No more traders. The local people of these cities, they left their cities. They did settle on the new trade route so that they could deal with the traders. The main income was supplying the traders and the caravans with water and food, buying and selling to the traders, and again the traders who used to pay the tributes for the protection. So Jerash, like Petra, lost its importance since the 8th century AD. Then on the 12th century AD, Crusaders were in Jerash. According to historians, that the Crusaders, they stayed for a short period of time in the temple of Artemis, you know, Artemis in Greek, or Diana in Rome. And she was considered, you know, she's considered the goddess of love and hunt. On the 13th century AD, also Jerash was lost for 5 centuries. You know, at that time they knew about the history of Jerash, but they don't know where is the city now. Is it under the sand? Until Jerash was discovered by a German traveler whose name, Citizen, it was easy to remember his name, Citizen, you know, the watch, Citizen. Now the German traveler, Citizen, he was on his way from Damascus in the north to Egypt in the south. He stopped in Jerash and he started to translate the history of Jerash, which is carved on the stones. 1920, first excavation before 1920. 1878, during the Ottoman. The Ottoman, they let the Chechens, usually I say Chechens and Cherkessi, now I'll stick to Chechens with you, and because you're right. The Chechens who did join the Ottoman Empire, 1868, 78, they did settle in the east part of Jerash. Even according to Schumacher, Schumacher is one of the traveler in 1890 when he was passing Jerash. He saw these Cherkessians putting the gunpowder under the Roman columns, boom, blowing the columns, and using the pieces of stones and building their houses. So Jerash have been affected for a short period of time by the Chechens. 1920, first excavation start in Jerash by British archaeological team who start excavating in the Agora market area or the Forum. 1927, there was an earthquake that did destroy the temple of Zeus. You know, Zeus or Zeus in Greek, or Jupiter in Roman, who was considered the god of the gods or the king of the gods. Where after 1927, Department of Antiques and Antiquities, they start excavation and restoration in Jerash. What is discovered is only 20%. 80% of Jerash still under the sand. Where you'll find out this morning with the 20%, it will give us a very good example of a Roman city that still exists in the world. Of course, you know well, Roman Empire was a great empire. Yeah? Stand for there is Hadrian Wall in England. Yeah? Did reach to Persia. Mediterranean Sea was part of the Roman Empire. We did talk in Petra about how many countries around the Mediterranean. Huh? A lot. You know how many countries. And the Mediterranean was only part of the Roman Empire, which means that there was hundreds of Roman cities. Where are they? Recycled.
We're not in Jerash yet, because these Romans, they were not like Nabateans. You know, Romans, their cemeteries were outside the city wall, the Hippodrome, which is next. We are going to see the place where they used to have the chariot racing. Always chariot racing, Hippodrome was outside also the city wall. But this arch later on was named Philadelphia Gate. That leads to Philadelphia, present Amman. And like any other Roman gates, you know, this gate is built with 3 entrances. Now, you know well, the big and middle entrance in the middle. It was used by whom? The king, the emperor, and the high priests. Left and right were used by the people. And restoration have been made with the pediment on the top. But right now, if you look on the columns, you can see the Corinthian capitals. You know, Corinthian, it's a copy of the acanthus leaves. And usually capitals are on the top of the column. But by the gate, you could see them on the top of the column and the lowest part of the column. Maybe the reason was when the emperor entered, he could see very clearly the Corinthian capital. He don't have to bother himself by rising his head, see the capital, as he was an emperor, not a tourist guy. Okay? Yalla. Yalla.
No, the way to go know the iconostasis.
Oops. So look, Steve. No. Altar. Place where
Here
the
we see
relics were.
a little more of liturgical archaeology. It's a perfect church, and if you look at it, it has all the same elements as we have in our church. Main place for worship, it doesn't have the narthex of the pagans, so it means it was built when majority of Jerash were already Christians. We see the altar, which is a presbyterium, where the priest would sit. We see the place, the throne for a bishop, where a bishop would sit. We see place for the altar, 4 columns, and in the middle an opening where there would be relics. We see what the iconostas was. Of course, it was in a different shape, but we saw plenty of examples of such form. Somebody asked me about deacon doors, where apparently there were no deacon doors. There was only one door for the service where people would enter, you know, in front of the altar table. Well, there were no, at this time, deacons served a completely different function, as we understand deacons today. And what is also very interesting, and here you can see, and that's why I brought you here, that there are more impressive churches on site, is this little room that was liturgical storage. And if we're thinking about the procession, you know, where a priest carries the gospel, or a priest comes with the gifts, what do we have to do now in order to have the procession? To pick them up from the altar, in order to take them out, so we can bring them back. Which is, of course, very entertaining, but a little bit illogical. But this is rudimentary of what? The fact that everything was stored in a special place, and maybe in order to protect the uneven windows, maybe objects were pressures, so there would be procession where would they go and take them back during the procession for the liturgical celebration. So we see a very little example, but it's just perfect of how the church looks like, and it gives a very good idea of continuity of our tradition.
Used to do the chariot racing, yeah, and we could see from where they start the racing, where the arches on my right side, they go all the way down, where there was pillars. They used to go around the pillars, and they used to make it 7 times. Maybe at that time, people who were seated, you know, there was seats all around, yeah. There is a plan to restore more, and by looking ahead, see the way how they used to restore these arches for supporting the seats above, and maybe at that time people who were seated, they used to gamble. As well as coins were available. Who's winner? What do you think? Now maybe I've been to sites that you may find sometimes people, they might say, I did talk about it on our way to Petra, about the coins. The earliest coins was found, by the way, we did not find a single amphitheater. You know, it's a round theater, it's arena. But what we did found in Jordan, they were just theaters. They were not used by gladiators, and you'll find out. But possibly the hippodrome. Maybe the hippodrome was used by gladiators.
And hippodrome was used when Christians were executed.
Okay,
in the absence of the arena, what's arena?
What
Does
arena?
anybody know what arena is?
Anybody know what's the meaning of arena?
It's a sand stage. Because of the feces, excrements, blood, sweat, it's easy to replace. You know, it doesn't smell as bad because sand absorbs everything. Then you remove the sand and put a new sand in.
Then when these gladiators, exactly, because their skin, blood goes in a rock, to be something like impossible to wash it. But on sand, you know, evaporates it.
Not evaporates, but consumes it.
Absorbs it. Okay? Yalla. That's the south gate. Also, that was built on the 2nd century AD, but before the triumphal arch. That was built during the period of the Roman Emperor Trajanus, where during the period of which is about, you know, it's the emperor before Hadrian, you know.
Yes.
And again, you could see the gate with 3 entrances. Capitals on the top here and the lowest part of the column. And you know well by whom it was used, the middle entrance, by you, yeah. And you can see that they're excavating there. Let's go and find out what they are doing.
Go for it.
Копают, там мальчишки.
be a chance for pictures when we get to after the explanation. That's what we are going to do first. Whenever there is a shade, we'll gather where the shade is. Or the forum. Even if you go to Greece now, you say agora. Agora means what? Thank you. Market. So that was a marketplace and a meeting place. But this forum, to compare it with other Roman cities, it's unique. What makes it unique is the shape. You know, usually Romans, they used to build the forum in round shape or square shape. But this forum, to compare it with other Roman cities, it's oval. It is oval. First of all, the reason that was built in oval shape, and you shall see it oval later on after visiting the theater, we'll be walking on this hill. There'll be a nice Kodak moment from there for this forum. It shows that this forum, very clear that it's in oval shape. The reason it was built in oval, that leads up there. We're up there. That's the temple of Zeus. You know, Zeus or Zeus in Greek, or Jupiter in Roman, who was considered, you know, the god of the gods or the king of the gods. When Romans, on 22 AD, they start building the temple up there. And that was completed in about 73 AD. The temple up there have been affected by the two earthquakes here, especially the two major earthquakes, 749 and 1927 did affect on this temple. French archaeologists, they start since 80s restoring the temple up there. Now back to the forum, where 64 columns are still standing in the forum with Ionic capitals. You can see very clearly the Ionic capitals. Yeah. Then on the top of the capitals, a line of stones. A piece of stone over there. It's higher than the others, right? Yeah. The second over there is also higher than the others, where from there it was the main entrance to this forum. The reason that this forum is well preserved, you know, when Jerash lost its importance, as I did mention in the past, since the 8th century AD, you talk about hundreds of years, and that was big enough to bury the area with sand. And while looking over there on the lowest pieces of columns, the pieces of column which is in white color, that can give us an idea until where height of sand was. Yeah. So even first excavation start where we are, in the Agora market area or the forum. Alexander the First. Alexander the First. Alexander the First. This is why when I say nobody knows everything. So you are still learning. Not enough to make it's pepper.
The leaves smell strong.
But this will make the little hard pepper beans. It smells like pepper. Yeah, well, it's just getting ready to bloom now. Yeah. It is blooming. I'd like to see pretty little flowers. I'd love to see it when it's ready. It is pepper.
I never see anyone connect. What to do right now, we're going to visit the theater, where you'll find out it's well preserved and still used. And in the theater there, I need about maybe 2-3 minutes to explain about the theater. Yeah.
And we saw theater in Caesarea, and I said we want to see much better one in Jerash. And over here it's pretty much complete, so we can see also the back wall where all the stage mechanism were hidden and actors would get dressed for their performance and all that. Or undressed.
And the good thing also, as we are the only group right now, after the explanation, people could stand where the acoustic is and they could use it. They might feel as if they are using a microphone. Let's keep on therefore.
Это перечное дерево.
We should make Father Jim sing in here.
Ну там себя слышишь капитально.
Мама.
Okay. Okay.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, in Jerash, as I did mention in the bus, 13 churches have been found, and we are sure that there is more. And the first church here, by the way, that's St. George Church. The second church with the 4 standing columns, that's John the Baptist Church. And the third church, which is surrounded by a wall over there, where we did found the best fragment of mosaic was found in the city of Jerash. It's the best that was found so far. It's the church of St. Cosmos and St. Damien. Now these 3 churches were built during the period of the Byzantium Emperor Justinian. Where during the period of Justinian, 7 churches have been built in Jerash, whose period was from 527 till 555 AD. And you may ask, why do they build 3 churches beside each other? I'm sure that Father Elia, he did answer this question. Did you?
No, not yet.
Not yet, so I'll leave it for you.
Any ideas?
Different sects.
No. They would never build next to each other, Walter. Baptists would never build next to congregations, don't you think?
Do it all the time.
That was such a Protestant answer.
No, one city, one bishop. Never. One city, one bishop. Universal rule.
Lots of people?
Any other ideas? Well, it got warmer, you know, coming closer. Any other ideas, Lena?
Competition.
No. No, well, yes, but no.
Rival priests?
No. Maybe, but no. Any other ideas?
Honor the Trinity?
Trinity.
Huh? Как as Russians, to this church we go, to this we don't go.
Yes.
Well, maybe, but no. Any more? One last chance.
Competing with each other.
No, you're repeating yourself. One more chance. Any ideas?
You can only serve 1 liturgy per day on one altar.
Amen. A young man, the prize goes to a young man. If you get 1 dinner, you can keep answering to the quiz rightly.
So,
What was the answer?
The answer is 1 church, 1 liturgy.
Один престол.
One the altar. Why 3 churches next to each other? So they didn't use substitutory altars. You know, it was completely different sets, and where the canon rule came from. We are perfectly set if there is a different priest and there is a different altar table. But we use the same quote-unquote utensils and everything else. But in fact it was totally separate. That's where the canon rule comes from. And actually it's one complex, as if one church.
And who adopted this?
Chapels, maybe for the relics, maybe for some technical needs. And here's some beautiful pieces of mosaic. We have a side room up here.
There's some here on the side too.
So this is the main church.
Я вас зафиксировал.
People here, they are looking for you down there. You know, they said what? You look as if you are in prison, you are good proof.
As American citizens, we demand to be let out right now.
So freedom.
Otherwise we're going to appeal to the ambassador. Let us out. Let us out.
Wow.
Us here without judgment.
Sure. Георгия.
Еще написано, что церковь была построена этим Федором и его женой Георгией. По-гречески он там посредник.
Man, his name Theodore and his wife Georgia, and we could see their images. If you look on the right hand side, on the corner where Cosmos is, under Cosmos, that's Georgia. And her husband Theodore on the left hand side, the 2 rich, wealthy couple who did donate for building the church. Sorry?
Are they the ones on the floor?
Yes.
Okay.
You could see again the peacock, the bird of resurrection. You could see the camel, lion, Saluki dogs, the sheep.
там не все так просто с римскими богами. Говорю, скорее всего, не снимают рекламу. Репетируют.
Oh yeah, I still retired.
Если я снимал рекламу, я буду снимал цвет.
الا تلاقي واحد مع رقم.
طب هسه بحالة ما لقيناهوش مثلا او كان مشغول في اوديو هنا.
Well, if the guy's got up 20,000 or 20,000 is a millionaire, he can go there and do. So they want to go to France, of course.
And this is what makes, even in the early Christianity period, yeah, Byzantium period, people who became Christians who used to go to the temples, pagans temples, and the reason was to smell the frankincense, yeah, to hear the music. But when, at the end of, they did find out that there was no Roman pagans, remain their beliefs, they start doing what? On the end of the 5th and the 6th century AD, they start converted and consecrated Roman temples into churches. And that's a very good example down there. That's it, the temple of Dionysus, built on the 2nd century AD. You know Dionysus, the god of wine. Then on the 6th century AD, they did add the altar in front of these columns, adding the altar facing the east, and it was converted and consecrated into church and was named St. Mary Church. And down there, you can see the remain of a cathedral. That's a St. Theodore Cathedral.
Wow.
The earliest that was built here was built between 350 to 375 AD. And these are the houses. Possibly they were used by the priests or the guests to come to Jerash. They reach here, they need to have at least one night rest. Yeah. Maybe that's like the Ibis Hotel, Because no way for them to come to Jerash, then to go to another destination one day. They reach here, it's one day travel, they need to have overnight here. They import from Jordan, they don't pay tax. When we import from United States, we don't pay tax.
So
this is why sometimes you may find medicine made in Jordan, drugstore.
Are those gasoline prices per liter we're seeing?
Per liter.
So you're
about $3.60 the gallon.
Almost like ours.
Ours more in Canada. But when I say to people coming from Europe, that's the price, they will say, oh, that's very cheap in Jordan. In Europe, it's about more than double price. Okay. Now,
sounds like the dog.
Now about the temple. Yeah.
He's talking, Alex.
Father Jim, you'll get reprimanded because you're not a dog.
Now, that's the temple of Artemis. Artemis in Greek or Diana in Roman. And she was the goddess of love and hunt. She's the daughter of Zeus. Maybe you did find out that the temple of Artemis is bigger than Zeus. Why? Because she was the protector of Jerash. She protected Jerash. But this temple was built during the period of the Roman Emperor Antonius Pius. Antonius Pius, his period was from 138 to 161 AD. He's the son-in-law of Hadrian. And where you could see the hugest columns with the hugest Corinthian capitals. 11 columns are still standing. 9 with the huge Corinthian capitals. And 2 columns on the right side, capitals fall down. And the height of these columns are about 13 meters height. About 42 feet height. And this temple was not converted or consecrated into church. Was used as a quarry. With all the stones that have been taken, remain one of the most beautiful buildings to see. And a very good example in front of the temple. This simple building, when we walk close to it, you're going to see pieces of round stones, and they are pieces of columns. As far as we know, Greeks and Romans, they don't use pieces of columns in a building like this. They shape these stones in round shape, one on the top of each other with the capital on the top, and they were for decoration or for supporting a roof. That was the purpose. But who came after the Romans, they were recycling, and that's a very good example. You know what I mean by recycle? Taking stones from dirt and building. Because up there is the Holy of the Holy. Now these columns are still standing. You know, when an earthquake happened, the earthquake, it hits the area from down below. It did shake the pieces of columns. And sometimes I don't understand myself. To explain exactly what I'm talking about, look on the third column over there, the third from the left. See, 1, 2, 3. They were still standing. Which is actually from the earthquakes that hits the area from down below. Now to think about this temple, how big this temple was, I'm going to take you to show you the main entrance. There is good news and there is bad news. Let's start with the bad. Bad news will be going down the steps. The good news, we won't be coming back from here. A good shot from there, where, oh, our friend's already there. That's a good shot for the temple. Okay. Yalla. And there is shade there when we go downstairs. Yalla, yalla. Yalla, yalla. Romans, before pre-Romans, in the Old Testament, when it talks about our Lord, when he created the world in 6 days and the seventh he rest. There's a lot of 7 in the Old Testament, like, you know, when Joshua, son of Nun, he crossed the river Jordan, when they went 7 times around the city wall. The dreams of the Pharaoh in Egypt, you know, Joseph. The dreams of the Pharaoh, 7 years good, 7 years bad. The 7 pillars of wisdom. And also, even in the New Testament, when yesterday we went to Macaros, there was a dance called the dance with the 7 veils. Even when Muslims, they go to Mecca, you know, they go 7 times around the black stone. They throw the devil with 7 stones. There is a lot of 7, even there is a famous drink nowadays called the 7-Up. 7-Up. There is a supermarket in the States, 7-Eleven.
Yes, Canada too.
Now, by the way, 7, there is a lot of 7. Even when we talk about to spread, you know, to travel to Europe and to the Far East, even they did reach India. Yeah? We have a lot, most of the sea. Bless you. Take care. Be careful. No jumping. Walking.
That's what I said. You don't get any ideas.
Selling what? Frankincense and myrrh. The second statues. Then the third spices. Postcards, Pizza Hut, Burger King, Golden Arches, McDonald's. These shops, by the way, a very good example of this shop here, there is still remain of flights of steps that leads up to the second story. Maybe the second story was used for the East.
Stay there.
Or maybe one of the guards stay at night there or to live. Well, looking on the big rock over there above the entrance of this shop. You remember, actually, in archaeology, you know, they want to restore, to replace a new stone instead. They should have, or they want to add a new stone. In archaeology, even that we have very good masons in Jordan, they are not allowed to make a copy of the Roman stone. The same size, the same color, the same design. So the new have to be different than the original. So that in 50 or 100 years' time, they will say, that was made on the 20th century, and that's from the Roman period. So the new have to be different. Okay? Let's keep on. Next stop to...
The car is going up and down. Aha. Now I want you to feel the movement of this column if you put your finger there. Breathing in your hand, is that right? Yeah, clearly you can feel.
Is it better up or down?
Just push it to the end to make it between the 2 blocks.
Either way.
Either way, the up.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
The Nymphaeum bath. By the way, Nymphaeum bath was actually always in any Roman city. It's in 191 AD. Okay? And you could tell by yourself the difference between the original stones and the new. You could tell from the color of the stone, how the new stone is smooth, yeah, more solid even. But the original stones, it have on it holes. Now the purpose for these holes, you know, was for what? Holding the plaster. And it was painted with fresco. A small piece of fresco left. Where? شو اسوي بالشمس يا زلمه؟ انحرقنا من الشمس. إذا بصبر شوي بس دقيقة يا زلمه. يا زلمه اشرح بعدين بنزيح لك اياهم. حرقنا من الشمس. No problem. But actually, we cooperate together. We colleagues. I was asking him that we are standing here because of the shade. Yeah. Il vous voudrait une photo? Expliquez seulement. Les yeux. Okay. Now, there is a shade place here. Maybe we could gather here for a second. Let's try to cooperate. Nymphy. Nymphy means what? Or nymph. It's the bride. She's wearing the white dress for the wedding. The bride. But 2,000 years ago, the nymph, they were considered the goddess of rain, and they were considered virgins. Even in the Greek mythology, when it talks about Zeus, when he was afraid from his wife Hera, so he kept his son Dionysus, you know, the god of wine, with the nymph to protect him. Of course. Even the god of the gods is afraid from his wife. Who's not afraid from his wife? And that's the reason you are laughing. You are right, of course. And we are not seeing any secret. And we'll talk about what coffee means in Jordan, and I'll prove another thing. Who's ruling in this part of the world? People, they think the men are. Come on, leave it later on. Anyhow. Now, so Zeus, who was afraid from his wife Hera, he kept his son with the nymph, with the virgins to protect him. Now, this Nymphaeum bath that was built on 191 AD. It's built of 2 stories. Again, you could tell the difference by yourself, the difference between the new and the original. The original stones that have on it holes, they were for holding the plaster. Then a small piece of fresco left, because it was painted with fresco. The fresco is where? The second story, the second niche from the left. You see 1, 2, where the keystone is. You could see a triangle shape of fresco left. And this Nymphaeum bath, by the way, yeah, this Nymphaeum bath, in these niches there was what? Statues of naked female. Unfortunately, not a single statue left. Again, they blame the Persians. I don't know why always they have to blame poor Persians. Even the niches of the first story, you could see what? In every single niche in the center, there is a hole, right? So passing the back of the statue, a canal where water used to run through the back of the statue, then water used to pass through the hands of the statue. Down under. Down under there is what? A semicircular barrel. Then the water from the semicircular barrel used to pass through these heads. These are lions' heads. Yeah? Then the water from the mouth of lion head, erosion effect. Water goes down here. Yeah? Where under where we are standing there is a drain. Every single carving here for one big fish. Yeah? One big fish. Except over there where my colleague is standing with the blue hat. Close to where he's standing, down under, there is 4 dolphins kissing each others, and dolphins they do kiss. You can see it over there. On stage.
Hello, please. No, because of my show. No photos here.
А доллары ему куда? Как эти поддержки, наверное, да?